This episode is sponsored by Fantasy Flight Games. To episode 45 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I'm super pumped to be here today with Matthew Jude from This Game is Broken podcast and also part of the Watch It Played crew. How's it going today, Matthew?
I would say a key component of the Watch It Played crew. Key.
Key component.
Fundamental cornerstone of the Watch It Played crew. I'm fine, thank you.
I love that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's great to talk to you. I always enjoy having international guests on, but of course that means I have to wake up early because it usually makes most sense for, to do my morning time and your evening time. But it's all good. I got my coffee. I've been up a while. I'm vibing.
Good. And I'm winding down. So we're just on energy is just completely different. It's going to be great.
So what's new with you, like either board game content creation wise, or don't you also have kind of a travel YouTube channel that you do? Or I don't know if you're still doing that.
I spent a lot of this is honestly true. I spent a lot of today planning a trip to Latvia. So
whoa,
I'm going to Latvia and Lithuania. Yeah, I do a travel channel thing, which is called YesLand, and it's like really where my passion is, right? So I mean, I love board games, but
that's awesome.
Part of me would love to not have to do board games for work. But of course I love board games. But so I've been planning a lot of that today, and I just got back from Mexico, went to Mega XP with Paula, friend of the show, and that was good. And that'll come up in a bit in one of the games that we talk about. So,
okay, awesome. Do you ever book trips for other people since you're such like a world traveler at this point?
No, but I do force Paula to join me on trips. So that's why I do that. I'm like, hey, we're both going to be at Essen. Let's go to Hungary,
That's awesome. And do you bring filler games with you?
Do you know what? Sometimes I do, yes. Because you never know. Because you could be in a situation and you go, wow, I'm here. There's people here. I've made friends by accident. And now I've got to entertain them. So bring a filler game. Something that you can... Also, before we start, because... We might be talking about filler games today. Who knows? But
we just might be.
We might be. Do you ever hear that filler is a bit of a negative connotation to the word, like negative connotation to the game? Oh, it's a filler game.
Yeah. I do notice that sometimes that people perceive them kind of that way.
It's not a real game.
Yeah.
It's not a full game.
Yeah. It's not true, though.
It's not true. I'm so against. It's like, I actually heard this once when it was like someone asked, what's your board game guilty pleasure? And I went, I don't have one. If I enjoy it, it's not a guilty pleasure. It's just good. I just enjoy it. So
it's not like Monopoly or something.
It's like, if you enjoy it, well, don't be guilty about it. Just enjoy it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're kind of jumping ahead. It's probably obvious, but today we're going to share some of our favorite filler games that can be taught and played in about 30 minutes or less.
Yeah. And I tell you what, just turns out it's just some of my favorite games. A lot of these are just some of my favorite games in general.
That's cool. I mean, and the beauty of them, you can get them to the table a lot easier than big old meaty heavy games,
Absolutely. One of them, which we'll talk about later, I finally managed to get my mom to play. So that's huge step in board games.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. My mom listens to every episode of this podcast, and it's very adorable. She will text me sometimes if a game sounds interesting,
Oh,
or
cool.
if there's yeah. And one time, I think it was Elaine from No Pun Included brought up a game called Spots, so I ended up buying Spots to play with my mom because she's like, that sounds like something I would like.
It's cute. That's the one with the dogs and it's a cute art and stuff, isn't it? That's a good game. I like that one.
It's cute. Yeah, it's pretty cute. But before we start talking about filler games, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Matthew. So let's jump into fresh plays.
Up first on my fresh plays, I tell you. Do you know what? You ever look at a game and think, I don't think that looks very good. And you just don't know why. You got a feeling, you got a prejudice,
Yes.
you've just got this, and it's Skate Summer, right? Skate
Okay.
Summer. It's by Pandasaurus Games, Randy Ryman, came out in 2022. And I tell you what, my friends were playing it at like this event, and they said, hey, do you want to play Skate Summer with us? And I said, I want to play a game with you, but I don't necessarily, it doesn't need to be Skate Summer. We could play anything. We could play any game that's here, but you've chosen Skate Summer. And because the board looks so busy, it's the busiest look. But once you actually kind of like change the focus of your eyes and you can see what's going on the board, it all starts to make sense. And it is so much fun. I loved it. I bought it, which means I really liked it. I was like, I'm buying this game.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's a game where you are... Have you played it firstly?
No, I haven't played it. I remember it coming out because I was like, that's a cool theme. But I've never played it. I don't know much about it. So
they really harken back to my youth, which sounds fun to say, is with games like like PlayStation games like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and stuff like that, and Pro Skater 2. They kind of do a bit of a homage to that kind of thing. And in it, you've got your skateboard and you're playing cards down, and your cards, you're first playing them down to, you want to set collect the 3 different colors essentially, and if you don't bail at the end, you're going to score points for the cards that you played. And you can also manage to get multipliers, so that blue cards are now worth 3 points each, so I'm going to play a bunch of blues, and now yellow cards are worth 4 points each, so that type of thing. That's the first part of it. But after every card you play, which is essentially a different trick, you have to roll the dice. It's so there's sort of massive push your luck element to it. Yeah. And
okay.
And the dice are going to push you left or right, because as you play your tricks out onto your little board, your skateboard, I guess, actually, and they each have a lean to them, a tilt to them. And so it's like, okay, play this card, get this symbol, maybe get a resource as well, but I'm going to move 2 forward, which means I'm tilted 2 to the forward, and there's only like 5 before you bail, and so you're trying not to bail. So, and each round, everyone's like, okay, is everyone you're gonna come out, or you're gonna play another card? And so you're pushing your luck to try and play more cards to get more points, but you're more likely to bail. And each time you get more dice, so it's even more. It's risky. I'm back. That's why I lost, because I can't stop. That's why I don't play Can't Stop, because I can't stop. And it's brilliant. So, and then there's the extra part is you use the cards that you played to move around the board to collect resources for some set collection stuff, and you can go around the board to collect the letters S, K, A, T, E, and R to get bonuses to your hand size, bonuses to how far you can tilt, all these type of things. It's great. It's really good.
Cool. That sounds really That sounds really funny. It kind of like when you're talking about the tilting, it reminds me of Sky Team a little bit when you're trying to, I don't know if you played Sky Team yet, where you're trying to like make sure the plane doesn't go too far in either direction.
Exactly. And there's just something really, I don't know, just really charming about Skate Summer once you're playing it, because there's a lot of puns in the names of people in it. And you can tell that you can tell that the game came from a place of love. It came from a place of, I really love this, and I'm going to try to make a board game version of it. And I like it that it's not just Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, the board game, because that's,
right.
You know what I mean? It's a whole different thing. So it's great. It's really good.
Awesome. So is the art, if I recall, like, is it kind of playful?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I'm like, can this be paired with Fort for a game night?
Actually, do you know what? A little bit. The whole kind of like motif is this pastel graffiti kind of feeling to the whole thing. And
nice.
And it's like a little town on the board is like this town and streets that you're going through and stuff. But it's I'll say the artwork is certainly unique.
Cool. I'm going to have to check this one out because I am a sucker for like unique themes. And I don't think at some point I bought a game called Tuavara. I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's a surfing game.
I know exactly what game you're talking about.
Yeah. I bought it and I still have never played it, but I was just like, how cool, a game where I can be surfing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a good skateboard one to check out. Awesome. So that is Skate Summer. So I recently played a game that was not on my radar a month ago. Yeah, it was not on my radar a month ago. I never thought about playing this game until I recorded an episode of this podcast with Ian O'Toole. And Ian O'Toole put a Stefan Feld game called Forum Trajanum on my radar. I ended up playing that and really enjoying it because it's this like cool puzzle. And that, for whatever, led me to a Stefan Feld game, which is co-designed by Michael Reineck, who's the designer of The Pillars of Earth. It's a game called Merlin from 2017. Yeah, have you played Merlin or heard of it? I mean,
it's probably one of the only Stefan Feld games I haven't played.
Okay.
So I'm interested to know what you think about it.
Yeah,
so Rondell, go on, tell me about it.
Yep. So I don't even know how I got to being like, oh, I can't wait to play Merlin. I'm watching videos, I'm reading about it. I don't remember exactly what the trigger was, aside from being curious about more Stefan Feld games after playing Forum Trajanum. And I think it had this like Renaissance Fair appeal, and we like going to Ren Fair. And I was like, I really like the art and everything. But this is published by Queen Games. I ended up buying the deluxe big box
because there's a bunch of expansions. There's Queen expansions, the Morgoth. There's a bunch of them, right?
The Arthur expansion. There's another expansion that gives like asymmetric abilities. Yes, and it's all in there. And the deluxe big box, like the components are really cool. They're game trays, and it's
Oh, nice.
So the presentation is like really nice. It wasn't cheap, but it definitely, like, when I opened everything and was punching it, I was like, oh, okay, like this was definitely worth every penny. Yeah, and just like how nice everything fits where it's supposed to. If I want to play with one expansion, I just take that tray.
Oh, that's nice. You know, I like that.
Oh, it's really, really, really nice. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. So in this game, basically, King Arthur is searching for a worthy heir. And with Merlin, he's trying to find the best candidate among the Knights of the Round Table. And we're the Knights. We're the Knights, Matthew. So we're going to be playing 6 rounds, and after every 2 rounds, there's a scoring phase. So there will be 3 total scoring phases. So off the bat, I know Stefan Feld is often accused of being like a point salad designer. A lot of Stefan Feld games are point salad, but one of the things that I like about this is that it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you do stuff and then we score. you do stuff and then we score. It's not like every single turn you're getting points kind of thing.
That is different for a Stefan Feld. I'm a big Stefan Feld fan. So that is different, right?
Okay, after this, I want to hear what some of your favorite ones are, your Feld games.
Right.
But put a pin in that. Put a pin in that.
Okay.
But anyway, the crazy thing with this game is it's a roll and move game, which when people hear roll and move, you think about like old games like Monopoly, and I can't even think of other ones.
Yeah.
But like where you roll dice and you move your piece, and wherever you land, you know, you do whatever that space is, and it's very kind of like luck dependent. But this is kind of maybe the only game I'm aware of that's roll and move that's a Euro game. But each player is going to have 3 dice of their color, and then you also have 1 white die. We all have 1 white die, and at the start of a round, we're going to roll all 4 of our dice, and then we're going to just take turns in clockwise order, playing one of our dice, moving it into the center of the round table. So the main game board is, yes, it's a big rondel, and it's looks like a table, and you're moving your knight pawn clockwise around this rondel. And I love it because it like actually like you're moving your knight onto seats around the table. Like the art is really, I really, really adore it. And the graphic design is really, really cool. So I pick one of my 4 dice, put it in the center, and if it's my die, I'm moving my knight clockwise that amount of spaces. And then I take the action that's on the space. Or I could use my white die to move Merlin. Everybody has a white die, so we're each going to move Merlin at least once. Merlin can be moved counterclockwise or clockwise. And sometimes, depending on the values of your dice, you might, wait. Like, I want you to move Merlin first because maybe you'll move Merlin closer to something that I need.
Yeah.
And it's like, your knight is always going to end the round, based on the sum of the dice. But it's like, what order do you use them? Like, do I move my knight 3 first, or do I move 1 first, then 3 last? So there's some kind of like neat little decisions there, not too overwhelming. But the action spaces around the rondel, one of the things I like about it is when you look at it initially, you'll be like, oh, that's a lot of like little icons and things to get familiar with. But there are really like 4 types of spaces. And then they're like kind of similar. So around the rondel, I don't remember if is it every 4 spaces or so, every 5 spaces, don't remember. But there are these principalities, these castles, and they have their own like flag and color. And whenever you land on one of those spaces, you can take one of your vassals. So everybody has these 4 vassals. You have like a builder, you have a shield bearer, a flag bearer, a lady in waiting, 4 vassals. And you can put any of them into that particular castle. If you already had the one you wanted to move on the board, you just move it from wherever it was and you put it on that castle. Then you're going to activate their ability. So the flag bearer will let you get a flag for that particular color or faction, whatever you want to think about it. The shield bearer will let you get a shield of that color. And then the lady in waiting, the builder lets you get a cube of that color, which is a construction material cube. And then the lady in waiting lets you place one of your little influence markers, and you play coin games. So it's like one of the little soldiers.
Yeah.
Those like hexy tokens, So those are your options on, and there's 6 different spaces like that. So each one, like I told you, you can get a flag. Flags are cool because you'll have these mission cards that you can try to achieve on your turn. And maybe you want to have a brown flag and a purple flag. And once you do, that's cool. But the flags also give you some special ability if you want to discard it. And they all have like cool abilities. Like one, you can discard it to move your knight counterclockwise. One, you can move your knight, then take an action where one of your opponents is. So it's like cool stuff. They're good. The shields are good because everybody has their own player board. I love this player board. It looks like a castle. And at the start of each round, you're going to have 3 random traders. And again, these traders are associated with these same castles, like these 6 different colors. So if I have a purple trader at my castle, I'm going to want a purple shield so that at the end of the round when we score, I repel that trader. Otherwise, traders are -3 points. So you want to get shields to kind of block their BS. So you have like those castle spaces. You have other spaces that are like influence spaces. If I have at least 1 influence in a spot, I can take whatever I want. A cube, a construction material, a shield, or a flag. You have victory point spaces. For every flag I have, get 1 point. So there's your point salad a little bit. So there are some spaces where you will score victory points mid-round. Then there's a space where you get to interact with this environ board. And you were mentioning the Queenie module. So the environ board is this board that you'll set up with hexes, like different types of, like there's mountain terrain, forest, and I think water or something. And the base game has a lot of just plain ones and like one or 2 special tower ones where you get to like get something when you build on it. But the Queenie module lets you put cooler tiles out. So I started there. I was like, I didn't want to overwhelm my friends I was playing with the Arthur expansion, even though I really wanted to play it. But I was like, let's keep it kind of vanilla for the first game. But I did put the Queenie terrain tiles in. So another one of the actions is to build a manor on to this board. And these tiles come out randomly. And they're cool because when you build a manor, you get something cool, number one. And then the other reason is, depending on the size of contiguous matching terrain types. So if I have 5 water tiles adjacent to each other, that's going to be worth 5 points to the person who has the most manors there. So if there's just one like forest that's a lone forest by itself, that's just going to be 1 point to whoever builds a manor on that. So there's a little bit of like, area majority scoring there. You also have these mission cards. Mission cards let you score small amounts of victory points mid-round if you meet certain objectives. The cool thing with this is there's a board you can play with, which I didn't throw in this game, but I really wanted to, where you can, when you meet a mission objective, like, oh, I need a purple shield and a orange flag or something. You don't spend them. You just need to have it. And then you can cash one of these cards in on your turn. And there's a board you can play with that when you meet one of these mission cards, you can either take the points or you can unlock a cool ability. And I really want to play with that because
that's a delicious decision point.
Yeah. But I didn't want to overwhelm people. So I didn't throw that in yet. Then there are also these like, there's an Excalibur and a Holy Grail space. And if you land on Excalibur, you get to repel one of the traders, just remove them from your castle. And then you get this Excalibur token, which could be worth 3 points for you during scoring if you still have it. The Holy Grail gives you an apple. Apples are great because they taste good, but also because they let you spend it. You can spend it to make a die any side you want. So it makes a die wild. And then during the scoring phase, like you just go through, and I love it. The scoring phase is summarized on the board right by the round tracker. So like, I just love so much of the graphic design of this game. Oh, and I didn't mention this. When you build a manor, you can't just build a manor. You have to spend a cube of construction material. And the way the environ area is set up is there are arrows. So if I have a purple cube, I can only build on spaces that are flowing out of where the purple cube can build. Okay. So there's some just like real life restriction there. Yeah. Exactly. But then like when scoring phase happens, first thing is everybody deals with traders. If you don't have a shield, you lose 3 points. And again, and then you'll get 3 new ones for the next scoring phase. You score that area majority on the environ board, like just see what the biggest group is, who has the most manners, yada yada, get points. Then you're going to go through each of those castles on the rondel, and you're going to score for whoever has the most influence there gets points. The Holy Grail breaks ties, which came into play a lot, and it was slick. So getting the Holy Grail is kind of can be important. But yeah, you score your influence, and then you discard your influence down so that everybody only has a max of 1 in the castle. And then each of your vassals, those 4 discs, like your kind of workers that are out on the board and not in your castle, they are also worth a point. And you're probably wondering, like, well, why would they not be on the board once you place them? Because if I put my builder on the blue castle and you come through later, Matthew, and put your builder on the blue castle, you're bumping mine back to my castle. So
Gotcha.
There's a little bit of that. But I really liked it already. Like, I'm very excited to play with the Arthur expansion because it adds another layer to the rondel. It adds another pawn and another die. So you're going to have a black die for Arthur to move Arthur, a white die to move Merlin, and then your 3 color dice. More choices. I think there's more dice mitigation with that expansion. And all the expansions seem really cool. And I just I love the vibe of this game. So I'm no regrets buying the deluxe big box. No regrets.
You just went for it. I'm sold. You had me at you get cubes. I mean, I'm in. You know?
Awesome. You should definitely, I highly recommend checking this one out.
I don't know why I've just never had the chance to play it. It's just passed me by.
The big box is the way to go.
Yeah.
It wasn't really on my radar. I feel like I've maybe seen it before, but I am curious to know. So that's Merlin, and Matthew has not played Merlin, but you are a Stefan Feld fan. What are some of your favorite Feld games, real quick?
All right. Let's go play Trajan. It's one of the best games ever made. It's so
Trajan
good.
Is great.
It's the only game I was gifted by Nick and Mike Murphy. I was gifted the Geek Up bits for it.
Oh,
I was like, I don't need Geek Up bits. Then I got them and I was like, these are actually pretty nice. So that was good. Castle Burgundy is my favorite game of all time. Obviously, it's just the greatest game ever made. So that's all there is to that, really. It's not really up for question. I really like Carpe Diem. And I know some people are like, the board thing doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. It's great. Don't worry about it. It's fun.
I haven't played it.
There's a whole thing with the way that you can move your piece round to like select what you're kind of going to next. And it was done in the first edition. It was done, I mean, art. It's lacking in art, let's be honest. But it was done in this way that's kind of like in a pentagon kind of shape, like you can move and cross things. And everyone's like, this is just a circle with extra steps. And Stefan Feld came out and said, oh yeah, this is just a circle with extra steps. So the second version of the game is just a circle. Because you can move to,
gotcha.
where you want space, you can go to one of 2 other spaces. The fact that it's crisscrossing the board makes no difference. That's still just a circle. You're still going to go 2 spaces. Anyway, but that was like, everyone was up in arms about it. But that's brilliant. And there's just, I'm always, Bora is good. Macao, that's great. Amerigo.
I played Macao before, yeah. Never played Amerigo.
Amerigo is great. Its box is too big. Vastly too large. Because it's got the Wallenstein type of cube tower thing in it, right?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So it has to fit in
Dropping
there. That's
cubes
great.
And stuff.
I really like the Oracle of Delphi. Everyone was not on board with that one. I was like, this is great. It's a race, but it's fun. I like that one as well.
It's a Euro game race game. It's so, super cool. Super cool. Very unique.
There's loads of them. I liked Forum Trajanum I thought Forum Trajanum and Bonfire kind of came out back to back. And both of those were like, Stefan Feld has lost his mind. He's gone heavy. and heavy in, there's a lot going on in these games, right? But I'm looking forward to. Is it called Civolution? His newest game.
Oh yeah, Yeah, Paul Grogan was saying it's really, really good.
So I'm interested in that. So
yeah. You definitely have more Feld experience than me. I played Castles of Burgundy once years ago, loved it. Have not sold it. I have the old version of it, the maroon box, and I actually just brought it out of the garage onto my main shelf because I want to revisit that one. And then I have a couple friends who are Feld heads, so we're talking about doing a Feldathon at some point. Because now Trajan really surprised me. I played that for the first time last year at some point.
It's great.
And
Stephen Feld was my first love. He was my first board game love.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
Definitely.
That's
and I met him once and I was very nervous. But he was
very
nice.
Tall.
He's incredibly tall.
I met him briefly at the Essen a couple of years ago. That's cool. Okay, thanks. That was just for my own curiosity. Now we can jump back to Fresh Plays, your second game.
All right, my second game. It technically is called Camino a Xibalba, but it's got a side name, which is the name on the box, which is just Pitz. 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 It's a game from this year. It's from designer Gabriel Faraway, I think, and Jalapeno Labs, who are a Mexican board game publishing company. And I played it. I played a prototype of this. It's not out yet, but I played a prototype version of this game in Mexico. And it was like my game of the convention. So this is going to take some vivid imagination going along. You know that...
I'm ready.
That Mesoamerican ball game that we all get taught about in school. You know, where they're in the kind of... It's like basketball, but there's sacrifice involved, maybe, type of game, right? And it's played all over Mesoamerica. And I looked it up and everything. It's just called Maya Ball Game on Wikipedia. But it's in that you've kind of like, it's essentially volleyball, where you've got a team of volleyball, you're trying to get the ball into the little hoop on the side of the court. And the court itself is flat on the bottom, but it has kind of like ramps up the side, so it's kind of like this shape, if that makes sense. Like a wide U. Kind of like that's the board of the game, but also how the game looks when you go to the ruins of one of these game pits, essentially. So I saw this game. I was like, what the heck is this? It looks very exciting. And
cool.
Me and Paula Deming, we sat down and I was like, we got to demo this game. Also, because this is at Mega XP Con in Mexico City, which everyone should go to. It's 3 hours away from you. It's 3 hours to go there.
I didn't even know about it until today.
It's easier than going to PAX. It's that close. And
I'll put it on my radar, yeah.
Do it. It's so good. And also, did you know De Vere is like the Asmodee of Mexico? Who knew this? I didn't until I went. That's the truth. They publish everything. They like distribute Magic the Gathering in Mexico. Anyway, whole other thing. But Mega XP's Great Con is about 2,000 people there. It's the biggest convention in Latin America, is what they call it, and it's just so much fun. It's got a little bit of everything. It has like a mini Ren Fair, like cosplay area. People playing Pokemon. There's a lot of people who just there to play Pokemon. Great, loving it. They had a great time. I did get altitude sickness, incredibly bad. Turns out that's something that is a thing. That was awful, but I persisted in playing. So I sat down to see this game. So it looked really. I persevered, and it looked very interesting. So they taught us the game, and in this game, you are essentially, it's a 2-player game where you're playing as one of the teams. You have 3 different units that you can play as. There's one is the Jaguars, there's the Falcons, and there's the Snakes. I want to say is what the groups are. And you have 2 of each of these units, and you have your leader unit. So it's a slightly mythologized version of this game, this traditional real sport. But Oh my god, it's so good. So the board is essentially like a chessboard looking hex, kind of like a square chessboard
Grid
kind
or
of
something.
layout.
Yeah.
And the pieces have certain movements, not unlike chess pieces. But you only pick 2 of the different units to start off with, and you pick them in secret. So your opponent doesn't know if you're using the Jaguars and the Snakes, or the Snakes and the Falcons, or the Falcons and the Jaguars. And all these pieces move differently. So, and you're just first to get like 3 points, say. And on your turn, you can move one of your pieces. Your pieces move in specific predetermined ways. Like the Snakes can slither around going diagonals, and the Falcons can jump over. They can fly over pieces, for instance. And there's a ball in the middle of the board. So this is essentially an abstract strategy sports game.
Whoa.
Because you hit the ball by entering the same space as the ball. And the power that you hit the ball at is determined by your momentum. So if I moved 2 spaces to get into the ball space, the ball then will move 2 spaces. And the direction of the ball is determined by the piece that hit it. So if the Jaguar hits it dead on, it is, you have a little cheat sheet. If the Jaguar hits it dead on, for instance, the ball will move in a diagonal movement. But you get to pick which diagonal movement it takes. And essentially what you're trying to do is set up these plays where you have positioned your pieces intelligently and correctly, which me and Paula did not achieve, but we scored a few points. But it broke our minds a little bit because it takes some getting your head around it. But
that's
essentially,
really
if you hit the ball, you have the ball in play. So if it then hits another one of your pieces, the ball carries on moving. So if the Jaguar hits it diagonal to the Snake, and then the Snake receives the ball and then hits the ball, determined on how the Snake hits the ball, and say the Snake hits the ball in a straight line and hits it to another Snake that hits in a straight line, and hopefully what you've done is you've hit the ball in a way that means you score a point, because I put this piece here, this piece over here, this piece here, which means when I hit the ball for 2 movement, it's going to go boing, 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 and pinball into the goal.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, is it like a goal like soccer or something?
So it's like you just have to hit it into the thing. And there's like on the side where there's the ramps, the ball can't stay there. So the ball is never, it's smart because it means the ball's never right at the edge of the board, so you can kind of always get at the ball from all these different directions. And you've also got these leader pieces which have special movement and special hitting abilities. One trudges around like a king, the other one zips around like a queen, essentially, from chess, but they have special, but the king hits the ball much harder than the queen does. That's kind of like how that balances out. And there's going to be apparently lots of other leaders. It was just so cool. It was so much, and it's everything I like. It's just, I love abstract strategy games, and it was just, I was like, this is so cool, and like I hope the game does really well for them, because it's based in like a lot of love from their own culture, and it's been done with a lot of heart, I feel like, and authenticity, and it was just really good. And Paula has a prototype. There is a copy of this game in California, as far as I know. So it was great.
We've been trying to get together for games, so that is good to know.
Yeah. Pitz, Pitz.
That sounds awesome. And do you know like how far along they are with like getting it out?
So I think they're doing a Kickstarter, and the designer was showing me an app, like an app version of the game. I was like, send me the app. There's an app of this.
Cool.
I will play that all the time. Makes perfect sense to me. That's great. So I think they're getting there. They've done other games. They had this other game, which I never got a chance to demo, which was a baseball game, and all the pieces looked like they were baseball mitts. I was like, what is this? This is wild. It's great.
That's cute. Yeah, when you were describing this, number one, I love abstract strategy games also. And I love abstract strategy games, especially when they have like even just a hair of theme to them. And this sounds like chess meets foosball or something.
Exactly. It's like
I love the idea of trying to like position your teammates well, to try to get a goal. Like that's
it really
cool.
feels like you're setting up a play. Well, that's why Mythic Mischief was one of my favorite games from when the year it came out, and that time. Have you played that time
Mythic
you killed
Mischief?
Mythic Mischief? Ivy Studios.
Never even heard of this.
Ivy Studios, who make Moonrakers and Fractured Sky and a few of those games.
I know Moonrakers. I like Moonrakers.
You would like Mythic Mischief. It's like you're at a school and you're troublesome kids trying to annoy the tome keeper. It's fun. But also that time you killed me, that's got theme. It's got wild and random.
Haven't
weird
played
theme
that either. I've heard of that
travel
one,
theme. Time travel. It makes no sense, but it's the only book with an authentically funny rule book. The only game. So
yeah. Okay. I wrote both of those down. I don't know why I haven't gotten around to trying That Time You Killed Me, but I didn't even know about Mythic Mischief. So it's all I'm gonna check it out. Thank you.
I think you'll like it.
Thank you.
What else have you been playing? You got one more?
Yeah, I got one more. I've been playing a game which I would describe as like probably one of the almost weirdest games that I've ever played, and it's called Tragedy Looper. But I was playing Tragedy Looper New Tragedies, which is a new version. WizKids sent me a review copy of this. It came out in 2023, this new version, and I've been wanting to play it because I played the old version of Tragedy Looper, which I forget when that one came out, and I was just like, whoa, this is so neat. Talking about time travel there. So this game is designed by designer Shin Ito, who's known as Baka Fire, and it plays with 2 to 4 players. And in the game, one player is going to be a mastermind. You're going to have a script, and then the other players are on a team as protagonists. And then you basically have a script that's this story that's evolving, and the mastermind is trying to make these tragedies happen, like trigger these incidents. And this is like a hard one to kind of describe a little bit, but what it is my friend Ben from the Game Brain podcast, like described it well, where you have characters on the board. So they're different character cards, and characters might have different abilities, and they have different levels of unease. It's called, not paranoia in this version. It's called unease, where it might trigger some kind of incident if it's a culprit. But you don't know, aside from the character names, you don't know what their role is. And each character, I don't know if they always have to have a role, but most of them have some sort of role, and the roles may be able to trigger like certain things that happen. Like if there is a brain in the game, I think at the end of a loop, the mastermind can like place a why is it intrigue token? I forget what the other, one of the other tokens is. But the way Ben described it is us as the protagonist. I've never been the mastermind for this game. I'm terrified of that, by the way. Us as the protagonists are basically, it's like we're watching a game of these characters on the board who are playing Blood on the Clock Tower. And it's like we're trying to deduce what the roles of these characters are. And also, each script has a main plot and a number of subplots. So, and depending on what the plot is, there are different roles in play, and certain things, like certain triggers might happen. So we're trying to figure out which plot might be, what the main plot is, what the subplot is, because then we can narrow down the roles, and we're trying to deduce it based on what the mastermind is doing. So you play the game over a number of loops. The script will tell you how many loops you play. And a loop is like, there was a show, Quantum Leap. I don't remember exactly, I just remember it, like, basically each time you play a loop, you kind of like reset the board. It's like Groundhog's Day kind of thing. So you have a certain number of loops, and a loop will end after a number of days, which are rounds, or if the protagonists die. Like if the protagonists lose because some trigger happened, maybe an incident popped off, that's the end of the loop. Now we reset, but we have some information. We know, why did that character die in the hospital? Oh, because we might be dealing with this plot, or we might have a serial killer in this game. And there's so much crazy deduction, and apparently you can play this game where the protagonists aren't allowed to talk to each other until like the end of the loop. And I don't even know if I'll ever be at that level with this game where we... But the thing is, it's a catch-22 because if we talk as protagonists, the mastermind hears us.
Yeah,
too,
can hear what you're saying.
It's not like private. Yeah, and then can like tailor their strategy. And kind of the flow of each day is the mastermind places 3 cards. Like everybody has their own like deck of cards. All the protagonists have the same card options, but the mastermind is going to place 3 cards on the board. They could put a card on a character or on a location. And they're doing stuff like adding unease to a character, which if a character has, like, let's say it's the office worker and they have a threshold of 2 unease before they're like, possibly going to go nuts and something's going to happen. So they're trying to put unease. They're trying to put, I'm going to keep calling it intrigue. I don't remember if I just played this last night too.
Let's go with that.
Cool. Yeah. Intrigue. Yeah. You could put that on the location, or you can put it on a character. And again, depending on the roles in play, different things happen. If this location has 2, or if the brain's location has 2 intrigue tokens, the brain's starting location, because all the characters start in a specific spot, then somebody's going to get murdered if this happens, and all sorts of stuff. It's wild and crazy, very challenging, so unique. I've only played this game twice so far, once with the original game and once with this new Tragedies version. And every time I play it, I'm like, I want to play this more, because it's like one of those games where if you haven't played it for a while, it's like, wait, how does all this work together?
It's going to reward you for getting into it.
Yes, for getting into it, and for like, I want to go through like more scripts and more challenging scripts, even though it's already very challenging. Have you ever played this one before?
I've never played it. It's one of those games I've always seen and looked at and gone, is this me now? Am I going to play this game? Because I first heard about it from Ambi from Board Game Blitz podcast.
Yes.
And it was her favorite game of all time.
She has some great videos on it.
Yeah. You know what? If Ambi's done a rules video for it, you're in for a heavy game. But it's but because it's her favorite game. But the thing is, she's also much more intelligent than I am. So that's worries me about it, right? She's the kind of person who solves Rubik's Cubes for fun. But she's great, though.
She's playing 18xx games for breakfast. Yeah.
She is. She's a genius. But her babies are going to be super geniuses, I think. And but it's her favorite game. And I was like, well, if it's Ambi's favorite game, it's got to be good, because I respect Ambi's opinion, which, I don't respect everyone's opinion, let's be honest. But
fair.
But so I've always wanted to try it, and it's got a kind of anime feel to it that appeals to me, I'll be honest. So I'm just like, I should try it. Although I'll be honest, deduction is my biggest board game gripe. I'm not good at it. I get frustrated and I'm just like, but I want to like a deduction game. Maybe this is it. I just played Alchemists one time when I was like getting into the hobby. Like there's this game called Alchemists. I was like, yeah, sounds great. Let's play it. And we learned it from the rule book.
Oh no, Matthew.
And we played it wrong. So at the end, we were like, oh, no one wins because we did this wrong. So this is all pointless. I was like, we're doing this for 3 hours.
That's hot. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I want to agree with you. Like, deduction is a challenge for me. But this one, because you're working as a group,
yeah, that sounds
is
good.
A little better. Like, we're bouncing ideas off each other. We're like, oh, do we think he's going to try to put intrigue there? If so, one of us should play the card that cancels the intrigue. And like, you could move characters. There are four different rooms. So like, you could try to cancel. There's certain cards you have that you can only use once per loop. And there's also a card that I think it's the intrigue one. Like, if you cancel intrigue, if multiple protagonists play a cancel intrigue card, it can't, like, it doesn't fire. And that's why, like, can you imagine not talking to each other and then just kind of like trying to figure out who's going to be the one to play that card? Oh my gosh.
But it's like, when it's something straight up deduction and I'm in it on my own and I can't tell anyone why I'm confused right now, you know, that's difficult for me. But I do like solving a mystery, like solving a murder. And this feels like it could be, feels because the teamwork involved in that. So this feels like something I could get behind. I do want to try this. And
I definitely like don't, if you can avoid just like learning from the rule book and play with someone who has played it before, like Ben is, I love it because he's been the mastermind both times. At some point, I'm going to try being the mastermind. And I guess one of the things with the new Tragedies version, the new version, it is, I think, tailored to ease people in. But if you can find someone who knows the game, that I would recommend doing that first. The other cool thing is, like, as the mastermind, again, I'm terrified to be the mastermind, but like Ben was sweating. Like he was taking so long to think about, just based on our conversations and us honing in on like trying to figure something out. And he's trying to throw us off. And so it seems like it's going to be exciting to be the mastermind in this game also. Yeah. And another funny thing is, I was like, when we were starting to play, I was like, we got to put on the right music for this. And so I started with the Contagion soundtrack because it's just very stressful and ominous. Yeah. And then Ben said, put on LA Confidential soundtrack.
So yeah, I'm into that.
I put that on and I've never seen that, but oh my gosh, it was just hilarious. At some point I searched Japanese noir music and found this like kind of saxophony music. But the funniest thing was, after the LA Confidential played, my phone just starts going on randomly playing other soundtracks. Oh, all of a sudden we're at the Shire. Yeah. Like, we're like, this is not fitting the vibe of this game. We had Jurassic Park pop up. We had the original Terminator
in the background. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like hilarious listening to the random music that was coming on. And yeah, anyways, it's a very strange game, very unique. I'm going to play it more because I want to. I don't know. It's so fascinating. I've never played a game like this, but it's a lot to wrap your head around. And you should definitely play it. We should play it with Ambi.
Oh, that'd be great. Ambi would have to be the mastermind, but yes, let's do that. And we'd probably lose, but that's also fine. But it's the experience. Do you know what? Playing someone's favorite game with them, though, that's like one of the best things ever. You know,
magical. It's magical. Yeah.
I love that.
Yep. So that is Tragedy Looper New Tragedies. And for anyone out there who's played the old version and is curious about more specifics of like what's different with this version, Ambi does have an awesome comparison video, and she has a how to play of the old version. And just off the bat, like, I do know there's a lot of overlap, but they changed some icons to make it clearer and some of the art and graphic design to make it a little bit clearer. Some of the titles of the scripts and stuff changed a little bit. And there are also 10 brand new scripts in this game versus the original base game. Some might have come from expansions, but it's cool. It's a one of a kind game. Not for everyone, like every game, but definitely worth checking out if any of that sounded neat. So that is Tragedy Looper, New Tragedies. And now a word from our sponsor. The fate of the Republic is at stake. Introducing the Clone Wars edition of Star Wars the Deck Building Game. This brand new standalone addition to last year's much-loved card game features iconic characters and vehicles from the Clone Wars era, including battle droids, clone troopers, General Grievous, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Choose to take command of either the Galactic Republic or the Separatist Confederacy. As the Republic, you'll coordinate the efforts between your Jedi and Trooper units and execute awesome combos to achieve victory. On the Separatist side, you'll make ample use of the exile mechanic, removing your own cards from the game for powerful benefits and stealing the win at any cost. This easy-to-learn game features lots of strategic elements, inviting players of all levels to face each other again and again. As a standalone product, the Clone Wars edition can be played even if you don't own the original edition of Star Wars the Deck Building Game. That said, if you do own the original, then you can mix and match elements of the two editions to create your own unique experience. Whether you picked up the original edition or are just now getting into the game, be sure to give the Clone Wars edition of Star Wars the Deck Building Game a try when it arrives this August. Let's get into our filler game conversation. Matthew, can you tell people what filler games are, just in case there are people listening who are like, what are they talking about when they say filler games?
Well, you know what? What is a filler game? We defined it as games that can be taught and played in around 30 minutes. Normally, not always, but normally the lighter game that is, that you play in between two heavy games when you need to, sometimes you might want your brain to have a little rest, but also have a lot of fun.
Palate cleanser.
Yeah, but all these ways of describing filler games are put downs. They're great games. They get played more than any other game. They've got to be good, so, but that's how we kind of like defined it for the sake of defining them. So yeah.
I think they're great, like you said, for like in between games, or if, you're waiting for people to show up at your game night and, before you jump into something bigger. Also good for later in the evening, and often they're usually very accessible, so you can kind of teach anyone. They're not that crazy, but there are some that are really, really good, and they're.
I mean, there are also good games that are often higher player count that you can play in a loud environment, right?
Yes.
One of these specifically, I'm thinking about this on my list. I'm like, this was exactly the game we needed to play when there was a bunch of us and we needed to just be able to shout at each other a little bit. It's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into our list, and we'll start with your number 5.
All right. First off is a classic, No Thanks. Came out. I'm wondering if we've got any crossover, but we'll see.
I wonder too. Oh, wait. Before you jump into No Thanks, is your list ordered based on your or is it just these are just games you love?
I haven't really ordered them in like least love to most love.
Okay.
I think it's safe to say I absolutely love all 5 of these games.
Cool. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
No thanks.
I think all 5 of my games would be in probably they're all some of the best games I've ever played, I think. But let's go for No Thanks. So it came out 2004, plays 3 to 7 players. So, I mean, I've never played it at 7, but you
Sounds
could.
Crazy, yeah.
It's by Amerigo, among others, and it's designed by Thorsten Gimler. So, No Thanks is, 2004. It's 20 years old.
Wow.
Gross, but still good. No, I'm joking. And in it, you've got a deck of cards that goes from 3 to 35. and you take out 9 of those cards. I think it's 9 of the cards that you take out. So you don't really know what's in the deck. What's going to happen is you've all got some chips to bid with, essentially, but it's an anti-bid because you don't want cards in this game. You're going to flip over a card. It's going to have a number on it. Say it's the number 25. It could be any number that you could imagine between 3 and 35. And you either want the card or you don't want the card. You don't want any cards. All cards are points. Points are bad.
Evil.
You don't want any points. But you're going to have to take some cards at some point, most likely. So, say it's 25. You say, I don't want that. No thanks to that card. I'm going to put a chip on it. And then the next person is going to make the same decision. Are they going to take the card or are they going to put a chip on it to not take it? And the card's going to go round and round, but it's going to be accumulating chips. The chips are good because it means if you take the card, you get the card and the chips. Not only are the chips points, but they are bidding. Essentially, they're your currency to bid to not take other cards. So that's how the game works. The only difference is that if you take a 33 and a 32 comes round, everyone else is probably not going to want the 32, but you might want it because it creates a run of 33 to 32, and you only score the lowest card in your run. So you can start to reduce the amount of points you've got, but the trick here is, the joy of this game is, I want that 33. Everybody knows I want the 33. I've got the 34. Everybody knows that's a card I want. But I don't want it with no chips on it. I want it to go around the table 3 or 4.
Let it ride.
I want to let it ride. I want to push my luck, and I want this card to accumulate an incredible amount of chips. So actually, I'm making out like a bandit. The only problem is that when you push your luck in this game, you don't know how many chips everyone else has. There's variants, but I always play it where no one knows how many chips people have got. And
they're in your hand.
Because they're in your hand, we keep them secret.
Yeah.
Like little goblins. And I'm like, I'm going to let this ride one more time. And then the person to your left takes it. And you go, why did you take this card? It's garbage card for you. And they go, I have no chips left. I have to take the card. And it's just brilliant. It's just a stand-up, hilarious game. And because there's cards missing, you're like, okay, I've got the 33. I've got the 34. I've got the 31. I'm just waiting for that 32 to come round. It's not in the deck. It's not. It's not happening. It's never coming. It's never going to come round. It's brilliant. You can teach this game in a few minutes. I've always had this game go well. I feel like it's a classic filler game for a reason that's been around for 20 years and is still in print. This is the one that I taught my mom. She played it. She liked it. That's a seal of approval right there. It's brilliant. It's such a great game.
No thanks. That's such a great pick, and I love it, but totally forgot about it.
There's so many
forgot
to pick,
about
right?
it. It's on my shelf too. It's on my shelf. I totally forgot about it, but that is awesome. And yes, this is one I've played with my mom and my family before too, because it's that easy, and that push your luck of the anti-bid is so cool. That's a good one. Okay, speaking of classics, first game I'm going to bring up, which I guess let me know if we'll just have to let each other know if we also have it on our on the other list, but it is For Sale.
I considered For Sale.
Okay.
My copy's right there. I was like, do I put For Sale on this list? If my list had been 6 games, For Sale probably would have been my 6th. Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. So this is a 2008 release designed by Stefan Dora. Tons of publishers because it's been around for a while, but the latest version is Eagle Griffin Games. Mm-hmm. Plays with 3 to 6 players. I've talked about it before because I just played this game for the first time last year. And and I loved it. I immediately bought it, and it's just a quick, light, fun card game about buying and selling real estate. Play the game over 2 rounds. There's an auction phase where everyone has a certain amount of money, and you're going to bid to draft one of these properties, And the properties have values something like 1 to 30 or something like that. So you're shuffling all these properties together, and you reveal one per player, I think. And you start putting up coins, and whoever bids the most gets to pick a card first, and whoever bids the least, or when you pass, you take the lowest value card immediately. So sometimes you're playing that game of waiting, hoping someone else passes before you so that you can get something cheap or free. But you auction off all these properties, then everybody has this hand of different property cards. And then you're going to shuffle this deck of currency cards. And not all of the currency cards are in play. I don't know if that's for every single player count, but maybe it is. But all the currency cards are not in play. They range from 0 to 15,000. We'll just say 15. And there are 2 of almost every card, I think, except like 1 or 2. There may be just 1. And again, some of these might not be in play. But if I know I have the highest value property, I'm guaranteed to be able to win a 15 currency card if I, play my cards right. But yeah, you're trying to, so you're phase 1, you're getting these property cards, then you're going to be selling these or playing these property cards. I didn't explain this. Each player is going to simultaneously put one of their property cards face down after you see the row of currency cards, again, 1 per player. And then we flip over the property, and whoever played the highest value gets to take a card first, which you're going to take the highest currency card, and so on and so forth. So then you play through, get all these currency cards, and at the end of the game, you'll go through all your properties. Whoever has the most money from currency cards and any gold you still had left from the original auction phase, whoever has the most money wins. But this game is just, it's so simple. I love the art. It's playful and silly. You're making jokes around the table.
I love the art in this. And it's like the houses I would pick to live in, turns out they are not the most expensive houses in the game. I'm like, I'm living in that tree house. That sounds great. Yeah. I'm in. It's like, for real, I could live in an RV? You crazy? I'm taking it. On
this island?
Yeah.
Cardboard box. And then is the sewer number 2, but the cardboard box is
cardboard
1?
Box is number 1, yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I think I might prefer the cardboard box over the sewer, but...
I think I agree. I can get behind that.
But yeah, it's very easy to teach. It plays very quickly. And every time I've taught it to people since I played it and bought my own copy, everybody always wants to run it back to back. Let's play it again. Let's play it again. And it's just funny because the game is just as simple, but the cards come out in different orders, and you just gotta do your best. Play the players,
It's one of those as well. I've never had this go wrong. It's just one of those great games. It's just a great game. It really is.
Yeah. And I also took, because I bought the Eagle Griffin box that's, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches wide or whatever. And I got rid of that, and I just got a deck box.
Yeah.
And I put the cards in the deck box, dumped the coins in there, folded the rule book. So it's much smaller. And I know there's an older, smaller version of it too that some people have.
The version I've got is the version you're describing, the Eagle Griffin. It's they did that London looting and that gem. There's a whole line of games in that kind of edition, but this game does not need to be in that box at all. It's a deck of cards and some coins.
I trimmed it down.
Yeah.
Cool. So that is for sale. What's the next game on your list, Matthew?
All right, the next game on my list is the game that I thought was the closest to not being a filler game because it comes in a big Ticket to Ride size box, but I checked the time on it and it says 30 minutes. So I was like, I'm taking it. I never get a chance to talk about. It's an abstract game called Chin by Rainer Knizia, published by Eggert Spiel. It came out in 2012. My copy is right there, somewhere, just over there. It's a game I never get a chance to talk about, and it really is a bit of a filler game in the sense that like the gift games could be considered filler games in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Only they just, they play 2 players mostly, but they are like, you're in and out in 15 minutes in a game of like Yinch, So, but Qin is it's based in the Warring States, part of Chinese history. That's as much theme as you're going to get. But it's this wonderful... And a lot of people describe it as kind of like a Tigris and Euphrates light, which I think is just a disservice to the game Qin. And this is for 2 to 4 players. And what happens is you have this board. This is set up in front of you, a big size board, which is broken up into a square grid. And on the board, there's also going to be dotted around these little villages, which take up 1 square or 2 squares. And there's going to be some starting places, which on the generalized board are in the middle. There's a yellow starting space, a red starting space, and a blue starting space, which will take up 1 square. There's the other side's got like water spaces that you can't place tiles on. I've also got an expansion board, which was, I tell you now, incredibly hard to find. I've never had a chance to play on it, but I know it was a mission that I went on. So anyway, on your turn, you've got 3 tiles in your hand. The tiles are double-sided. The tiles are double square pieces, so they're rectangles with 2 squares on. You're going to place a tile on the board, essentially anywhere as long as it's next to another tile or starting space. You're trying to create spaces that are too big. So 2 blues or 2 reds or 2 yellows. And some of the tiles are just 2 blues, right? So if you do that, you've created a area of the board under your control for lack of anything else. And you put your pagoda on it.
Okay.
Then it's the next person's turn and you draw back up to 3 tiles. They place their tile, blah, blah, blah. You go around and around doing that. If you create a space that is 5 tiles big, you put another pagoda on top of the one that you've already put out, and that can no longer be taken over by anyone else. Because if you have a size 3 yellow and you attach it to someone's size 2 yellow through clever, genius tile placement, you take that off them. So that not only gives them their pagoda back, it allows you to put your second pagoda on top of that because you've got a size 5 area. And it's a race to get rid of all your pagodas, all of these pagoda markers. There's also these things which are the villages, which we said, and if you connect your area to a village, you get to have control of that village, essentially, which is another pagoda you get to put out. But villages can be taken off you if other people exert more influence over them. It's super quick to play. It's just... like, it really is a filler game in many ways because you just will get it out. I can explain the whole game to you in 2-3 minutes. And even with 4 people, because the board is only the size the board is, so even with 4 people, you can have a game of this done in 30 minutes and then move on to whatever big game you want to play. It's just such a wonderful game that there was at one point a mobile app for it. But then all of a sudden, every mobile app that had the word by Reiner Knizia in it somewhere disappeared. And I was like, I wonder how that conversation went down because someone got angry at someone else. And these are all disappeared now. So I remember you could play Tigris and Euphrates on your phone. So yeah, and so I used to play this all the time on my phone. And I considered myself legitimately good at this game. And it's just wonderful. And I never get a chance to talk about it. So I was like, this counts for a filler game. So I'm just excited to talk about it. It's just wonderful. I love it. It is just a place tiles on the board type of game. And there's lots of games that do that. But I don't know. For me, there's something special about this. I just really enjoy it.
I want to it's called Qin?
Yeah, Qin. Qin.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love abstract strategy games. I love so many Reiner Knizia games, and a lot of Reiner Knizia's like abstract strategy games are so good. I haven't played this one. I'm gonna seek it out. And I love that you brought up a big box game because filler games aren't always tiny. They're not always small.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost put on my list Bullet Heart and Bullet Star.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, because that's done quick.
It's played pretty quickly, but I also was thinking about, like, I often am teaching new people, and sometimes it's like, oh, how does this? So I was like, I won't put it on there. But I thought about it because that game can be played quickly, and it's a bigger box than a typical filler game.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, my next game on my list, I've played. I got into a little earlier this year. It came out in 2022 originally. It is Sea Salt and Paper. So
this was a contender.
I guess, oh yeah.
So good.
Yeah, Sea Salt and Paper, it's designed by Bruno Catala and Theo Riviere and published by, originally the English-French version is Bombix, and then Pandasaurus has an English-only edition that came out in 2023. And it plays with 2 to 4 players, and I really like it at all player counts. This game, like, it's great at all player counts, but it's basically, you have these origami marine animal cards, and you're kind of building a hand with them. Some of the cards score for set collection. Some of them have this duo icon, which if you have a pair of this cards that, sync up with the duo icon, you can play them on your turn to do something cool. Sometimes it's like, draw another card. But you don't start with any cards in hand with this game. You are drawing a card at the beginning of your turn. You either draw 2 from the deck, right? Or 1 from a discard pile.
One from one of the 2 discard piles.
Yeah. So you know exactly what you're getting. Or you take 2 off the top of the deck and you have to discard 1 of them. And when you think, the interesting thing with this game is, when you think you have at least 7 points, you can end the round one of 2 ways, by saying stop or last chance. Last chance is basically, you think you have more points than all of your opponents. It's a slight gamble, but
even if they get another turn.
Yeah, and they're going to get another turn with last chance. If you say stop, then that means we're going to stop and we're all going to just reveal our hand. And there's some cards that may be on the table that you play duos of that are worth points, and we're going to just score it up. And, you play multiple rounds until somebody hits whatever the VP threshold is. It varies based on player count. But if there are also mermaids in this game, if you're able to collect all 4 mermaids, you just win the game. And I've seen it happen.
I've never seen it happen, but I've heard of such things happening. Yeah.
The legends. Yeah. My partner, Matt, ended up on his very first game getting every mermaid. And usually what happens is one person will have, it's in like a 2-player game, one person will have like 3.
Yeah.
And then the other person says stop. And like the next mermaid would have been like the next card or 2. But there's just a really cool tension when you don't know what's in your opponent's hand. You're always like, when you discard a card, like, oh, I hope it's not helpful to them. And then when they scoop it up, you're like, oh, why did I give them that?
Got penguins that I didn't realize you had. Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's just like some, by, again, not knowing exactly how many points or what your opponents are building in your hand. But like, if you think you have something good, like, oh, do I do the last chance? Because when you do a last chance, you get to score, if you're successful, you also get to score color bonus, which is 1 point per card of the whatever color cards you have the most of. So there's a whole thing there too, where you're trying to synergize colors in case you can score a color bonus. And mermaids on their own also score color bonuses if you're not able to get all 4. So they're not just useless. It's a cool game. And the very first time I played it, I was very lukewarm on it. Yeah. But then my friend Simon was like, hey, I've been playing, this is my like go-to filler game. and we played a 2-player game, and I was like, okay, I'm not selling my copy anymore. I want to play this. And I played it more and more, and I really like it.
Yeah. The artwork in this game is absolutely phenomenal because it's all photography of origami. And there's a little expansion called Extra Salt, which is like came in a booster pack, essentially. It was just 8 cards, maybe.
It's like 5 or 6 cards or something like that. Yeah.
And it fits. They fit right into the box that it comes in. It's literally a pocket-sized box. It's probably even smaller than an Oink game, I think. It's literally just the size of the cards.
Right.
It's got really good little helper cards to tell you how everything works.
Yes, player aids. You can
have player aids. It's just brilliant. And they did a follow-up to this game kind of in the same line, I guess, called Pixies, which, again, it's called Pixies, and the artwork is photographs of these little forest creatures, but it's all been made out of, like, bits of wood and twigs that have all been glued together.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that.
It's on Board Game Arena, and I played it once, and I was like, okay, this is fine, but it's no sea, salt, and paper. And then the more I played Pixies, I'm like, oh, this is really good as well. So yeah,
I love that. I love that when you get more excited the more you play, and you're like,
well, just because sometimes I'm like, this game's fine, and then I play it again. It's like, oh, now I actually understand the game as well, and it's great.
Yeah, totally. My only gripe with sea salt and paper is the card quality.
Yeah,
I find that when I shuffle the cards, a lot of them are bending in a weird place towards the top. Mm-hmm. So I wish the card quality was a little better, but it's also like, it's not that expensive of a game. When it's starting to look really bad, like, I'll just buy a new one.
Yeah, if you legitimately worn the game out, then you got enough play out of it, I think. But yeah, you wouldn't be able to. Well, actually, you need to keep the for sale box, and you
for sale box and sleeve the cards.
Sleeve the cards, yeah.
There you go. So that is Sea Salt and Paper. What's next game on your list?
All right, next game on my list is the newest game on my list. It came out in 2023, and it's called Cabanga. So, Cabanga...
Good one.
With an exclamation point, I got shown this by Dal Andrews at the designer of Sagrada, and he pulled this out at Aircon in the UK earlier in this year. And as any game that comes in a small Amigo card box, I will always try every single time.
Yeah.
And it's always worth trying. And then, I go to see if Eric Martin's done a video on it so I can learn how to play the game. So that's normally how that works. But
he's the one who taught me, actually, Eric.
Yeah. So yeah, because I have seen his review on it as well. And so Cabanga is this game. It's by Michael Modler. It's from Amigo. It plays 3 to 6 players, and it's so you've got 4 different suits of cards essentially, and you place a indicator for those 4 suits out on the table, and you have this like mini little deck of grey cards which are just numbers, and you're going to place 2 of these numbers either side of these 4 indicator cards. So you've got 2 discards essentially for each color. And you are then, on your turn, you've got a hand of cards, you're trying to get rid of all your cards. It's essentially a card shedding game. You're going to try to play a card to one of these suits onto one of the discard piles. All your cards have a number on them, and the cards in the discard piles initially have a number on. So essentially what you can do is I play the yellow 13, and I can pick which side of the yellow I play it on. Because what you're doing is you're creating a gap that is between the 2 numbers in the yellow suit. So say there's a 8 on the one side and you've put the 13 on the other side, you then have a gap.
And I say, Cabanga!
Exactly. And that is in the rules. And at the start of the game, I was like, I tell you right now, I won't be shouting Cabanga. By the end of the game, I was screaming Cabanga and Topanga and any word that sounded hilarious at the time. So you have a gap then in yellow of the 9, the 10, the 11, the 12 of yellow, and anyone else at the table who has one of those cards, the 9, 10, 11, or 12 of yellow, screams Cabanga, and they get to throw off that card, and they get to discard the card, which is bad for you because you're trying to discard your cards. And what's worse for you is not only did they get to throw a card off, you have to draw a card for every card that everyone else got rid of. So 4 people get rid of a card. You're like, great, I was trying to get rid of 1 card. I've netted 3 cards at the end of this. So all the cards have a point value between 1 and 3, I think it is, at the end of the game. So when one person goes out, they've got no cards left in hands. You count up the points on your cards. That's your negative score. But it's all about trying to find this gap. And you're trying to think, okay, someone you can play it really light and just have fun and just play the cards that you've got and not think about it too much and still have fun, or you can really try to game the game and think about what's going on and go, okay, they made a gap there and no one discarded anything when that happened, so I think I'm safe to do this now. And it's again like almost all of these games we've been talking about, there's a push your luck element to this where you go, sod it, I'm gonna go for it. I doubt no one's got any. No one. The 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are red. No one's got it. I'm gonna play this card down, and then you just get kabanged from nowhere.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's so fun. It really is just It's what I find remarkable in. I've always said that I think it's probably harder to come up with a unique small card game than it is to design a bigger Euro game. Because often, because when you do the unique little card game, you have to come up with something new. And that is what my brain would not be able to do. I'm not a board game designer. To come up with something new, and this is like, oh, this is so clever. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, Cabanga.
Yeah, it's simple, but very clever, very fun. I thought about that when I interviewed Emma Larkins. We did a Cardboard Creations episode on Abandon All Artichokes. That's such a simple card game, another fun one. But just hearing about how challenging it is to kind of design such a simple, small card game is like, it's fascinating because you would assume, oh, it's just a small like game, doesn't take that long to play, it'll be easy to design. But yeah, in many respects, it's harder. It's harder.
Because that's all the game is. And if that's not perfect and good, then the whole game is, if you've got a big game and one of the little things is like,
hide behind,
Yeah, you could, exactly. And it's, I just think it's great. So
cool.
I'm glad you've played it. It's so fun.
Yes. So that was Cabanga. Yes. And I kind of just forgot about it because I played it a couple times with Eric. I think I've played it with Daryl also. And I enjoy it every time I play it, but I haven't picked it up yet. But that is a really, really good one. So my next one is another older one. This is a game that I was introduced early on in my modern board gaming
journey.
Journey, yes. It was either late 2018 or early 2019. But this is a game where I played, and it's so simple, but also not. It is Arboretum.
Oh, man.
Arboretum.
I love Arboretum, but I play most of my games. I play a lot of games with Paula. Paula refuses to play this because she's like, she can't do it. But I love it. Yeah.
Oh, it's such a beautiful game. So it came out in 2015 originally. It's designed by Dan Kassar. The version I have is from Renegade Game Studios, and it plays with 2 to 4 players. And in this game, it's a card game. Each player builds their own arboretum by creating paths of tree cards. And there are 10 different tree species with 8 cards numbered 1 through 8. And first of all, the trees are beautiful, and the version I have is Beth Sobel illustrated it, and it's just all these trees are so beautiful to look at. You don't know what kind of mean game it is when you look at these trees.
It's so deceptive. It's so deceptive. You go, oh, this is going to be just lovely. It's not. It's the meanest game.
But when you play this game, you'll play with a certain amount of species depending on the player count. If you're playing a 4-player game, you'll play with all 10 tree species. And all the cards for however many species you're playing with are shuffled together to make a draw deck. everybody is dealt 7 cards to start. And then we just take turns until the game ends, I think, when the deck runs out. But on your turn, you draw 2 cards, one at a time, from either the top of the deck or from any player's discard pile. So everybody has their own discard pile in this game. We usually just put it around the deck depending on where you're sitting. So you can like draw a card from the top of the deck, look at it and say, ooh, now I want to take that card on the top of Matthew's discard pile because there's some good synergy there. But then you're going to play 1 card into your Arboretum. It has to be orthogonally adjacent to another card in your Arboretum. And that's pretty much with like playing cards where the only restriction is that it has to be orthogonally adjacent, which makes it incredibly simple to just be like, oh, I'm going to play a card here. I'm going to play a card here. But when you learn about the scoring, that's when it gets incredibly complex. And I struggled with this game the first time or two that I played it, like just wrapping my head around it, because I was like, what? I just like play cards and, you know. And so what happens is when the deck runs out, you score. Like everybody's just going to go through this, draw 2 cards, play 1 card. Oh, I forgot. You discard a card at the end of your turn. And this is one of those games where it's like the hardest decision of what you're going to discard, because you don't want to discard anything. And I especially don't want to, I don't want to like not have it. I don't want to potentially give Matthew something cool.
I can see what you're doing, and I don't want to give you that card because that's good. It's got
but
a lot
I have to get rid of one of these.
It's got a lot of lost cities in it because you're playing these. Well, the scoring works in these runs of cards, which you'll find out, and the tension of great. I've got a hand of cards, all of which aren't good for me, but I'm only keeping them because they're good for everyone else, and I'm stuck now. I cannot get rid of any of these.
So let's talk about the scoring. So what you're trying to do when you're playing these cards you're creating this arboretum of paths of tree cards is a path is going to potentially score if it starts and ends with the same species and all of the values of the cards are in ascending order. So if I start with a 2 maple card and I end with a 7 maple card, I could have anything else as long as they're in ascending order. Like I could have a 4 next, and then I could have a 5, and then I could jump to the 7. But I need my paths to start and end with the same type of species. If my path has all of the same species, I get bonus points if I'm fortunate enough to score my paths. So that's kind of like what you're doing on the board. But the reason the hand management side is so challenging is because only the person who has the highest value of a particular species in their hand at the end of the game is eligible to score their highest path of that species.
I feel like that is such an unnecessary rule, but it does make the game. Yeah. And it's so like, oh no, I've got such a good trail of jacarandas going, and I got the 6 and you got the 7. Damn it, it's this game. It's evil. It's so evil. It's great.
It is very evil. So you're trying to play cards into your arboretum, but you're also trying to make sure you have the highest value of the paths that you're hoping to score. And 8 is the highest card of each species, but if you, let's just say, hold on to the 8 jacaranda, is that how you say it?
I don't know. I went for it.
8. So Matthew's got the 8 and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna score this. And you see most of the jacarandas are on the table, so there may not be anything that sums to above 8 that could be in a player's hand. But if I have the 1 jacaranda, it's going to cancel out his 8. So mean. So you have to like watch out for holding on to an 8 for when it's time for scoring. But the way it scores is you get 1 if you are eligible to score a species. You get 1 point per card in the path. If your path starts with a 1, you get a bonus point. If it ends with an 8, you get 2 bonus points. And then if you play all the cards of the same species, your points are doubled as long as it's at least like 4. So if I have 4 pine trees, I don't think pine trees are in this, but if you have 4 pine trees and they're all like, and I start with a 1 and an 8, so I get 4 points, 8 points, then plus the 1 point for the 1, that's 9, and then plus 2 points for the 8, 11 points off that run. So there's some cool stuff you could do, but you have to be so careful about what's left in your hand versus other players. It's amazing, but it's
so good.
Brutal. It's beautiful. It does not look like it's going to be as brutal as it is, but it's really, really good.
I would play this game anytime. I love Arboretum. It's so wonderful. There's the old Z-Man box as well. Either of those versions that you can pick up are pretty much equally beautiful. It's great. It's such a great game.
Yep. Cool. That is Arboretum. What's the next game on your list?
All right, my next one is another small box Amigo card game. This one's by Rainer Stockhausen, who's the designer of Orleans and Altapano and stuff like that. And it's called Null Nichtig, right? Which means null and void. I think it's only ever got German. I haven't heard of this. I think it's only ever got like a German release. I think there's one called Aus of Niet, which is like all or nothing. So essentially, it's at its heart, it's a trick-taking card game, which does not play anything like a trick-taking card game. There's 5 suits, and the cards go from 0 to, I want to say, 11. And there's more zeros, though, than any other in the suit. So there's like extra zeros, which will come into play in a second. So what happens is you lead off with a card, and it's a high card wins. It doesn't matter what suit you play. The highest card is going to win the trick. And everyone starts off with a few cards in front of them, which is their opening score, essentially. So I start off randomly with the 3 yellow and 8 green and a 5 blue in front of me.
Okay.
And you're going to essentially score points for all 5 of the colours at the end of the round when someone has no cards left, the round's going to end. And so you're going to get 5 scores and you're going to add them all up. Your score is essentially the highest card, the card that is on top of your pile for that colour at the end of the game. When you win a trick, you take all the cards from the trick, and in order how they are played, you have to put them on top of your piles. So I've got like a bunch of points in yellow and a bunch of points in blue, but I've only got high cards left. And it's like, well, I guess I'm winning this trick. Everyone can see that I'm going to win this trick. So everyone you don't have to follow color or suit or anything. So everyone's just throws 1s and 0s at you and just tanks your score completely. It's the meanest, take-that-iest, stupidest little card game that does play like a trick-taking card game, but it's all about, honestly, it's all about ganging up on someone who's just doing what they can to win, and they can't help it, and you just gang up on them and tank everything they've done. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I remember...
Sounds fun.
It's one of those games I just happen to find in... My favorite thing to do at Essen is go to the secondhand German sellers and just trawl through all the old card games. And I saw this as like a numbers and colours trick-taking card game in German. I'll grab this for €5. So I grabbed it out.
Yeah.
And we played it and we're like, this game is incredible. It's absolutely fantastic. It's just so mean and so simple. And it's just stand up, laugh out loud fun. And everyone I've played it with has gone, where can I get this game? And I always say, you probably can't. I know that I played it with the Watch It Played team, And I know that the last copy in Canada went to Rodney from the Board Game Geek Market, and the last copy in America went to Chaz from the Board Game Geek Market. I have heard that maybe there'll be copies of it available at some point in the future. Unofficially. Okay. I don't know. Okay. No one's told me anything. I've not signed any NDAs. And so there's a possibility. There's a possibility this game might reappear in the world. It's certainly good enough to reappear because it's just
cool.
It's just a fun, dumb, mean, silly card game. And that is, frankly, my favorite thing to play. It's brilliant.
Awesome. And tell me that name again.
Null Nichtig, which means null and void. So it's null, Null, and, which is an ampersand, Nichtig, Null Nichtig.
Gotcha. So, you bringing that one up reminds me of Stick'em a little bit.
Yeah, love that game.
I'm like, that's probably your jam too. Then,
do you know what the list I could have gone on about for this? I was like, should I put the bottle imp on this? Do I put Camino in this? There's so many great. This is my jam. This is the games that I love the most.
I'm glad you wanted to talk about filler games. So this is actually a good segue because the next game on my list I call 3-dimensional Stick'em, and it is a trick taking game. I love trick taking games, and like you mentioned Bottle M. This whole list could be just trick taking games.
Oh man, I was absolutely.
But I was like, I'm just gonna pick one, and this one has been a banger with everyone I've played it with for a while. Maybe not everyone, but it's Schadenfreude.
Yeah. So I play this with Darren Andrews. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Schadenfreude is a 2021 release from a Japanese designer known as CTR, and it's published by Studio Turbine. I brought it up before, but this is a trick-taking game for 3 to 5 players, and Schadenfreude translates as experiencing pleasure from another person's misfortune.
There's a great Avenue Q song about it, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Avenue Q. I forgot all about that. So this game is going to end when any player scores over 40 points. And then whoever has the most points without going over 40 points wins. There's also a thing where if players who are eligible to win are tied, they cancel out. So there's something fun there too.
It's great.
But the cards range from, they're 4 suits. They range from -3 to 9 without a 0. And there are 2 wild cards, a single 0, which is suitless, and a 10, which is also suitless. And there are only one of each of those. It's a must-follow trick-taking game. And the winner of the trick is going to be the player who plays the second highest card of the lead suit, or the lead suit.
Mm-hmm.
And where that gets interesting is if you are that player who let's say we all play on suit. I play a purple 5, purple this, purple that. Okay. Whoever played the second highest wins the trick. They win their card. And then if any players played off suit, they will also win those cards. And when you win cards, you put them in front of you in a tableau. And at the end of the round, whatever cards are in front of you, you'll total them up. That's your score for the round. But as you play tricks, when you win a card that you already have in your scoring tableau, it cancels it out. So there are going to be times where you're going to want to either cancel cards for yourself because you don't want to be the one that busts and goes over 40. And there are going to be times where you're going to want to either try to dump off-suited cards, the right ones, to your opponents so that you're pushing them over. So it's a game where in round 1, you're just even playing field, see what happens. And then we ended round 1 and Matthew's got 20 points and the rest of us only have 5 or 6. Okay, now we want to try to push Matthew over, let him win lots of tricks, screw him over, but I want to push ahead of the other players so that when Matthew busts, I get to win. This game is so cool. Like the very first time I played it, I played a 5-player game. We were all like new to it. And I'm like, oh, I just heard this game's cool. And that minute where we noticed someone canceling out someone's points, we were like, oh, now I see what we can do with this game. And I played a 3-player game one time where I was able to make both my opponents bust at the end of the same turn, and I won the game like that. So I love it at all player counts. It's super fun, and it just seems to almost always be a hit. I'm just trying to think if anybody that I've played with didn't love it. I think it's because they didn't understand it fully and just had a bumpy time, which maybe that's on me. I should have explained it better. But
some people just hate trick taking, and that's fine.
Yes,
that's okay. That's totally cool. Yeah,
that too. But yeah, this game is just one of my favorite trick taking games. So I had to pop it on this list, and that's Schadenfreude.
It's so good. That's one I think because Nana, the game Nana, is fantastic. Or Trio, as it's called now. That was a Japanese game. I think Schadenfreude, I bet that gets picked up by a company and gets a wider release. Because it's
right?
I want a copy of it. I know that much. That's why I'm up for that happening, because I loved it. I really thought it was fantastic. All right.
Yep.
My last one is, again, a trick-taking card game, kind of.
Ooh.
And it's also by Reiner Knizia. And this one is called Too Many Cooks, but it got re-released as Foodie Forest, I think is the name of the new version. You're smiling. I'm happy about it.
Yes, I have Too Many Cooks. I have a version of the good choice. Okay, go ahead.
I'm a hunter downer of obscure Knizia games, and Too Many Cooks was incredibly hard to find. And I just wanted it because it's the front cover of the original's got an anthropomorphic onion on it. It doesn't look good. It's it's okay. Let's go into it. So Too Many Cooks by Reiner Knizia, or Foodie Forest. It's by the new version is coming out by Yellow. The original is by R&R Games. It plays 2 to 5 people. And the thing is, a lot of these trick-taking card games, I almost picked Skull King, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But
banger, yeah.
But when I play Skull King, we don't play for half an hour. We play it all night. That's the thing. It's
right.
Because we're gonna let's do. And Skull King does actually go on a little bit, but anyway. So in this game, we have 4 suits. I'm going to describe it in the version I know, which is you got 4 suits of veg, essentially, and a carrot is one of the suit, onion, another suit, that type of thing, mushrooms. And there's another suit, which is chilies. So, and chilies are obviously very hot and do something different. So you've got, firstly, a hand of cards, and you're going to be playing these cards out into the pot, which is where you're going to play your cards into the middle. And if you make the pot value 10 or higher, you take the pot, which means you get all the cards that were played into the pot. So, you lead suit, you have to follow. So if I lead with a onion, everyone else has to play onions, unless someone can't play an onion, in which case they can play anything. The trick here is that if someone they can't play an onion, they have to play anything, and they choose to play a chili, or in Foodie Forest is a trash card, because they're making soup. There's bugs and vegetables, and it's bugs, vegetables, and fruits, and you can put trash into the soup. It's still making soup, but they essentially break Trump. Essentially, is how that is in trick taking terms, and anyone can play anything into the pot. There's a couple special cards in there which can have no value, which you can play out, and there's also cards that are zeros that bring the value of the pot back down to 0, which might be really good because you are trying to collect cards. The cards you're trying to collect are, you have 4 contracts in front of you at the start of the game, and basically that determines the scoring that you're going to be doing personally. So you've got one card which is plus points for onions, minus points for chilies. Plus points for mushrooms, minus points for chilies. Plus points for carrots, minus points for chilies, or maybe it's peas. And the other one is plus points for chilies, minus points for everything else. So you have to pick one of these cards, and over the course of the game, you'll play all of these cards. And it determines what you are hoping to win. And you can see what everyone else's contract is. And you know what everyone else is going for. I know that, like, Candice is going for onions, and he's going to... Yep. I know that Mike is going for carrots, and I'm going for something else. So that's the whole game. You're just playing cards into the pile, hoping to push it over 10 on your turn to collect all the cards in there and get 1 point for each onion, maybe, because that's the contract that you played out. It's super simple, but I tell you what, because you can bring the pot back down to 0, and you can do it at the most evil of times, it's like you're gonna win this. You're gonna get 6 points from this trick. That's crazy. I can't allow that. So the person to your right plays a 0, and means you can't get it back over 10, because if you play just a straight 10, it becomes a 0. So it's like, I'm not going to get this now. And someone's like, I don't score plus or minus for this. I will take this so that Matthew doesn't get it. And it's it's just so devious and so wonderful. And there is a great charm to the older versions of this, because the artwork is just so terrible. And it's like, what are we doing? We're making soup in this game?
Soup. Yeah.
And then the yellow version, the artwork is absolutely lovely and delightful. And I'm tempted to pick that version up just because the game is so good that I know that I can get more people to play this new version than the old version. I own a lot I own a lot of games where there's a barrier to the game where I have to go. There's so many games I bring to the table. I have to say, trust me, this is good. That's like half of my collection.
Doesn't look like much, but it's
trust
good.
me. Yeah. Trust me on this. This is great. You're gonna love it. But I can see what you see as well. I recognize the way this game looks.
And with too many cooks, you're picking your bid card. Everybody picks simultaneously, and it's face down, right? So,
well, no, you could do it either way, where it's everyone picks simultaneously. Everyone picks at the same time. I can't say it. And you can play it where it's open information, where everyone knows what the contract is that your scoring is going to be, or you can play it where it's in secret.
Oh,
so you can do
no. I play it face up. But I guess where I was going with that is like, you and I might both pick our onion card if we still have our onion card. So we're both competing over onions. Like, that's a thing too. And also the fact that you don't get it back. So if round 1 I use my onion card, the rest of the game I can't try to go for onions.
Because as well, you're picking what card you're going to go for to like your scoring card, based off what's in your hand. And you go, okay, I've got loads of onions. I'm going to go for onions this round. And you get rid of your onion thing, and your next hand of cards for the next round, it's like, I've got even better onions now. This sucks. And everyone else is going for onions, and all I've got is good onion cards.
And I'm just going to pass them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's so great.
I love that game too. I forget. I have a group of guys that love like trick-taking games. And I always see them at like BGG cons, and they introduced me to a lot of like, they're also fans of like old Reiner Knizia games, and they're the ones who introduced it to me like a year ago, and I tracked down a copy, thankfully, with the old art. But I'll have to check out the new version too, because it is really, really fun.
I'm so glad that you played this. I really am. It's so wonderful.
Awesome. Too many cooks. The last game on my list I put it last on my list because this is the one where last night I was like thinking about my list and I'm like, did I really is this the list that I'm going to present in June of 2024? And I thought of a game that's been on my shelf again, probably just as long as Arboretum. And I think my friend who introduced Arboretum to me introduced this game to me. I haven't played it in forever, but now I'm like, I want to revisit it because refresh myself on why I loved it so much. And the game I'm picking is Biblios.
Oh, what a game. What a game.
I haven't played it in forever.
It's perfection. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm so stoked now to break it back out and pack that one when I need to bring filler games somewhere. But it came out in 2007 originally. It's designed by Steve Finn, and it was originally published by his publishing company, Dr. Finn's Games. The version I have is, I think, one of the newer versions from Yellow, and it plays with 2 to 4 players. This is another one that scales very well. But thematically, you're the head of a monastery during the Middle Ages, trying to make the best library, but you're trying to have the most victory points at the end of the game. And the way you're going to score victory points is set collection. There are 5 different suits of cards. They're thematic. They're monks and manuscripts and holy books and pigments and forbidden tomes. They're different colors, okay?
Yeah.
They're different colors, and there are 5 matching colored dice on this little scriptorium board. And all the dice start at 3. And that's going to represent how many points you'll score if you have the highest value of cards of that particular suit or category or color. And during the game, players are going to be able to modify the value of these dice. So, for example, if I have the highest value of blue cards at the end of the game and the blue die is showing a 4, I'm going to score 4 points. Like For Sale, this game is played over 2 phases. And of course, I didn't know anything about For Sale when I played this game back in the day, but there's a gift phase and then there's an auction phase. In the gift phase, you're going to draw a number of cards one at a time, and it depends on player count. It's always number of players plus 1. So in a 3-player game, I'm going to draw 4 cards, but one at a time, because after I draw each card, I'm going to allocate them somewhere. 1 is going to go to me. 1 is going to go to each of my opponents face up on the table because they're going to draft them. And then 1 goes to this face down stack, which that's what's going to be auctioned in the second phase of the game. So nobody knows what it is that face down card that I put. Nobody knows what I decide to take for myself. But the 2 that I decide, let's say we're playing a 3-player game, the 2 that are face up on the table, the player to my left is going to get 1 first, and then the next player gets another one. And then we all do this until the deck runs out. So it's the gift phase because we're getting cards. You're also building up this auction pile. And there are different cards for each color category. I think there are 3 categories that mostly have 1s and have some 2-value cards. And then there are a couple categories that have up to 3 as a value for the card and just have better value cards. So it's not symmetrical where all 5 suits have 6 1s and 3 2s. It kind of varies a little bit. Oh, they're also gold cards. So you could take gold cards. I forget the amount of gold on them, maybe 1, 2, or 3. And then there are cards that modify dice. So there'll be a card that'll be +1, and it'll either have 1 die or 2 dice on it. And if it has 2 dice and it's a +1, and I take that card or I leave it for one of my opponents, that immediately they would trigger, if they want to, increasing 2 dice +1. This is how we modify the dice. They're cards. And then after we run out of the cards, we do this auction phase. And that's where you're going to use the cards in your hand that you gain during the gift phase. Again, so kind of similar field as For Sale, to bid on cards. So now you're going to take turns, one at a time, revealing a card off of that auction deck that everybody played a card into on their turn in the previous phase. And I think the bidding starts with the player to my left, or it either starts with the person who's starting the auction, and you have to bid at least one to start, and then you can either pass or bid higher. You could also lie and bluff, but if you get caught, there's a penalty. But basically, if the card being auctioned off is a gold card, you're going to have to bid with non-gold cards. And it's just like, I bid 3 cards. It doesn't matter what the cards have, but non-gold cards, I get rid of 3 to pay for something. If it is a non-gold card, you're bidding a gold amount you have. So you want gold to be able to like bid on the other color cards, because again, don't forget, you're trying to, or maybe it's one of the dice manipulator cards. So it's like, oh, I know I have a lot of blue cards in my hand, so I want to bid a lot on that +1 so I could tick the blue die up, you know? And it's so cool. I love games that have any kind of like market manipulation like that, where the players are driving what the value is of something. And then you're, again, the tough hand management decisions of like, oh, do I hold on to this? If I really want to buy that, I have to discard 4 cards. Which cards do I discard? The other thing is like, I love the version that I have, the yellow version, looks like a book. And it looks like a book, and it opens up like a book. Like there's a magnet thing. The board is small. The dice, everything, like the presentation is really good. Like the theme, whatever. But it's a fantastic game, and I can't believe I haven't played it in so long. And I'm so glad I had this like thought last night of, did I miss something? And yeah, Biblios has like just stayed in my collection since like the early days of like 2018, 2019. And I'm about to start playing it some more.
It's such a remarkable game. It's so good. When you said Biblios, it made me smile because it's such a great game. So I've agreed the heck out of your list, I tell you.
Same. Likewise. And we had no crossovers. Like,
I had so
impressive.
many. Yeah, there's so many, right? There's so many good. I had like my shortlist. My long shortlist is still on here, and it was just only a few. Like Fuji Flush was on here, and
never played
Sashi. Oh, it's so good. And the Sashi game Newsboys, which I've just played, which is really good. And Captain Flick, which is up for the Spiel des Jahres. You played that? It's great.
Nope, not yet.
Drop It's great. You know, the Cosmos game with the shapes, you drop in. Oh, it's so stupid.
Nope.
It's great. Loads. There's loads of games.
Keep naming these because like this is good stuff.
I had loads of
I think we have similar tastes.
Yeah, definitely. I think we do. Yeah. Well, we do because we both like trick-taking card games, but we also like war games, and we also like abstract strategy
games. Yeah.
We'd have a good time hanging out, I tell you.
Yeah.
Be great.
Definitely. And also like with Biblios, a year or maybe last year or sometime they came out with like a Biblios roll and write game.
Yeah, they did,
I just recently saw a video on, and I'm not a huge roll and write person, but it seems like it's doing something kind of neat. So I'm interested in checking that out too. But I had for kind of like honorable mentions, Trick and Trade, another hard trick-taking game to get. It is a may follow market manipulation one where you're like trading cryptocurrency and players are driving the value of and you're drafting these shares every trick. It's so good, and it's been like my jam lately. That one is kind of hard to get right now, but maybe someone will pick that up. Little Tavern, I mentioned on the last episode of the podcast, that's a newer game. It's cute, fast, fun. You're trying to get the right different characters seated at your table so you get the most tips, and it's kind of love lettery where like, oh, elves want to be with other elves, and you know, that game's fun. Spicy, love bluffing games.
Spicy's good.
Potato Man. Have you played Potato Man? Yeah, I just played it for the first time like 2 weeks ago. That's a must not follow trick-taking game. Really good. Faraway. That was a new one.
That game broke my mind. It's so great though.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. It definitely like is a mind twist, but very cool. Like, I love the look of it too.
Yeah, it looks wonderful. But at the end of it, I'm like, what do you mean I got no points? What are you talking about? I definitely got points. Surely I got points somewhere.
And then I played a game called Eggs and Empires that my friend Tim introduced to me. Never had seen this game before, but it's really cute. It's almost like it feels like a little like Citadels, like where everybody has these the same starting deck of 10 cards that have different abilities, but you draw 3 and we're all simultaneously playing 1 to draft these dragon eggs. Some of the eggs are good, some of them are bad, and they're just like rules with these characters. So depending on which characters are played, things happen, get eggs. It was really fun. And I'd never heard of that one.
I've never heard it.
But yeah, they're Oh, Eggs and Empires?
Yeah, I've never heard it. It's an Eagle Griffin game.
Check it out.
I've never heard of this game at all. I've just added it to my wish list in my collection on Board Game Geek. Along with Little Tavern, I just looked that up. I was like, that looks cute. I definitely would like that.
Yes, it is pretty fun. And just
games
like
are great,
quick
aren't they?
Again. So we could, obviously you see this, we could talk about these filler games forever. They're so, like, a lot of them are so fantastic, and definitely I agree, like some of my favorite games of all time. And yeah, I'm really glad that you were like, let's talk about filler games.
I just feel like filler games are the games that you always come back to as well a lot of the time. It's like, we could play this new game, or let's just play Biblios and go. And like, we know we're going to have a good time, you know, so... Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate Arboretum, it.
But not with Paula. Yeah, Matthew. I'm so glad we were able to do this. Yeah, I guess you'll be at Essen, yeah?
I will be at Essen for sure. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to be at. So that's the last time I saw you was at Essen, I think. Or was it Essen or was it Gen Con? I think it was Essen.
I think it was Essen. Yeah. We always have a moment where we like bump into each other.
Like, hey!
Yep. See you later.
Yeah, that's
One day we'll actually get to play some games together.
I'd like that, yeah.
But yeah, you definitely put some games on my radar that I wrote down too. So I'm going to be checking some things out. And that's my little advantage of editing this podcast, because I'm hearing all of your game picks before other people hear this episode, so then I could go get a copy. Hopefully. Sorry.
Snag one. Absolutely.
Anyways, awesome talking to you, Matthew. Thanks for making the time. We went on for a while, but it was a great chat.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at BoardGameGeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@BoardGameGeek.com. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming!